Okay, this is Shutoko Battle Drift King 2 on the Super Famicom, or the SNES, call it what you will. And this is a Japanese import, as you can see by the title screen. But this is the second game in what on the Dreamcast became, I suppose, famous in the West as Tokyo Highway Challenge or Tokyo Extreme Racer in the US. Right, so let's try and navigate this. New game, and then this should take me to the... yeah, I don't read Japanese, I've just gone through all the menus and worked out what's what. Okay, let's pick a car. Let's pick the yellow one. The cartridge came with a whole bunch of preloaded and spec'd up cars, but that would have been from the previous player, I expect. Race. Right, okay. So what we've got here, it's a little bit different than the later Tokyo Highway Challenge games, as you've got the first two, I suppose the first three are highway levels or tracks, and then you get circuit tracks as well, and then like a mountainside one, which is flat, because it's mode 7. Okay, let's pick the second one. I suppose this will be the most familiar to Tokyo Highway Challenge. I love those games. The first two on the Dreamcast were really nice games, and there was one that came out on the Xbox. I forget the name of it. They called it something like Import Tuner Challenge, and that was fantastic, but as far as I know, that was the last one that came out in the West. Okay, here we go. I'm not so sure about this split screen thing. I don't like it in Lotus Turbo Challenge, and I don't like it in Mario Kart. I just wish it was there was an option to have a single screen, because I'm sure it slows the frame rate down. Oh, arse. So what you do is you race against one rival that it says target on the just above it. Oh, bugger. Go on. I think I've picked a really bad car here. It's probably... well, you get this on most racing games. You get a car which has really good handling and crap top speed, and I think this is it. Wow, he's quite far ahead of me. Graphically, this game's quite nice. It's mode 7, but well, if you've seen mode 7 before, you're probably aware it's really just like a 2D tile map. So if you think something like Final Fantasy or other sort of JRPG games, it's really just that, but it displays like a perspective. So your corners aren't really round. You can always see the little tiles, but on this it seems to hide it quite well. And it's quite strange. I'm actually I'm driving badly, but I'm mentally thinking of this as a game like Gran Turismo rather than it being like Mario Kart, because the handling doesn't feel like a mode 7 game. It feels like a current, or at least a 32-bit racing game, which I suppose is quite unusual for the SNES. And I wonder if this is why this game didn't come out in the West, because it was just, well, I'm not saying it was groundbreaking, but it was a little bit different. Oh, I'm doing awful. There's a little map in the top left, and the rival's quite far ahead, although crashing doesn't seem to help. There was a game before this called Shutoko Battle Drift King 94, and I've looked on a couple of videos on YouTube. To be honest, both of them, it's quite hard to find information in I suppose, on the English-speaking internet, and you get the choice of having highway levels or like circuits and things like that. So I'm not entirely sure how it differs to this, but what I did over Christmas, I've recently picked up this Super Nintendo. I thought I'll have a look and just see what imports are going, because I found that SNES games were really expensive on eBay. I've collected quite a few Mega Drive ones, and you could get them well, most of them for less than a fiver, but the SNES games were quite expensive. So I started to look around, and I saw quite a lot of Super Famicom, or the Japanese imports, quite cheap. And there was a guy selling them on like a web or eBay store. Get it? Oh, I don't think you're supposed to bash cars. It's not Destruction Derby. Anyway, yeah, so I saw these games, and they were going for less than a fiver, and I thought, oh, okay, the Japanese, and in some cases they were just the Japanese versions of games that came out in the West, but there were quite a few that he was selling, and I hadn't heard of them before, and I recognised the Shutoko Battle, and I thought, hey, I know that, it's Tokyo Highway Challenge. And doing a bit of digging around on, well, Wikipedia, didn't exactly look far, I found out that there were 2 games that came out on the SNES. So that would have been before the Saturn one. I thought, I've got to pick that up. And I'm really happy that I did. Because I think racing games on the SNES, well, I suppose even 16-bit, they're either top-down, and they don't really age very well. You either get isometric or top-down, and I think Micro Machines rather, has aged quite well, but I think the other ones tend not to age too well, and it's the Mode 7 ones that stand up. And I think karting games and F-Zero we're quite familiar with, but they don't really have realistic physics, whereas this game looks as good as any Mode 7 game does. I think perhaps the angle's a bit sharp, you can't see very far ahead. But the handling model's really good, and I know it's called Drift King, but the handling isn't... It's not really a drifting game. It's hard to say. I am and I'm not a fan of drifting games. I don't like circuit drifting games, but I like the Toge ones, the mountain drifting games. But the handling on this is more like just your modern games that, I suppose, even on Gran Turismo or Forza or even Metropolis Street Racer, the cars do slide a little bit, but it's not really a drifting game, and it handles like that. Not sure if you can hear the music. It sounds... Oh, bugger. It sounds a little bit like... well, almost like an Amiga game, and I'm thinking a little bit with the sound samples. It sounds like Speedball 2, which is a bit of an unusual soundtrack for it being a Japanese racing game, but there you go. Don't wait. If you hit the select button, you get to choose between the 2 views above, but I find that really disorientating. You get this trackside, almost like replay camera, and I find it really off-putting, but if you put it on rear view, I'm not sure if it's just my eyes, but I think it improves the frame rate a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Okay, I'll pick a different car. I'll go for this GT R32. I don't think the cars are licensed, but they certainly look similar to quite a few that I've recognised over the years. That one. Let's go for this one on the bottom left. It looks like a mountain track, but with it being Mode 7, it quite clearly isn't. Hopefully this car should be a bit faster than that other one. I wasn't overly impressed with that little yellow one. Ooh, blimey. This really does drift. I think with Mode 7 there's only so much you can really do, but the tracks do look quite varied. I will say that. There's a few... blimey. A few more of the circuit ones that have got this nice, almost like sunset effect on it, which looks really good. But you still get the problem of, because it looks... Well, it's not squashed, but because the Mode 7's drawn in a quarter of the screen, you can't see very far ahead. Ooh, blimey. I really should get hold of the GT games on the Game Boy Advance. I've seen them for years, and I used to see them in... It was the Game Centre in Scarborough, and they used to... Well, it's shut down now, but that was a really nice independent shop, and they used to have all these games, but I suppose whereas a modern shop like... Well, not modern, but you know what I mean, a shop like Game... They'll have the new games in, and they'll have a little bit of a back catalogue, and then they'll disappear. But this shop used to have games for years, and I remember seeing the GT games, and I was never quite sure how they'd play. I looked at them, I thought, they look like Mode 7, I'm not sure how that will fit for almost a... I assume GT stands for Gran Turismo, not the PlayStation series, but you know what I mean. And I passed up on them, and I'm almost regretting that now. So I'm wondering if they're as good as this, or whether they're based on this. They must be quite good. I'll have to see if anyone's selling them for a reasonable price. It's hard to know with Game Boy Advance games. There are quite a lot in the UK, because I suppose they are retro, but they're not, because they had such a long, I suppose, lifespan. Yeah, this music's really sounding like Speedball 2. Oh! Out of the way. Shoo. I think... What's he going up? I think the track's going over... Is it like a beach or something? Just looking at what's on the side. Out of the way. Come on. Oh, blimey. Spun it. If you haven't played any of the Tokyo Highway Challenge games or the Extreme Racer games in the US, they're not like this. The way it works is you have got a rival, but when you're driving, you've got this highway circuit which is a few miles long, so it'll perhaps take you a quarter of an hour, 10 minutes to drive around it. And the idea is you go to a rival and you flash them with your lights. And it's like Street Fighter, you get a health bar, so you get a health bar, they get a health bar. And when you're in front of them, their health bar goes down, and when they're in front of you, yours goes down. And the idea is to just drive in front of them for as long as possible. And it's hard, so you get these gangs, and you've got to defeat certain ones from a certain, or maybe the whole set, rather, to progress. Not certain ones, the whole, all of them. And... Ooh. And what you'll find is you'll get to a point where your car you just can't keep in front of some of the more faster drivers, so you've got to upgrade your car, so you buy new engines and turbos and improve the brakes. And again, it's very much like Gran Turismo in its upgradability, but the handling model's really weird. The cars don't turn. It's not like this. I was expecting it to be quite a similar game, but it's not. And the cars tend to smack into the corners, and you've got to spec them up to be almost very unstable. So when you hit a corner, your car just slides around and flaps. Unlike Ridge Racer, which drags you around the corners, you've got to do it all yourself, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good game, and I've really enjoyed them, but playing the first two to death on the Dreamcast and the one on the Xbox as well, I've really enjoyed those, but I've been looking for more games like that. Right, I think I'll leave it there. I think I've waffled on for long enough. This is a really nice game. I think if you're interested in picking up Japanese import, then this might be right up your street. So, thanks for watching.